Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Ruben and today I want to talk about JD.com. Chinese stocks have been under pressure lately, and because of that ARK Invest has been updating their portfolio in China. They have been selling Alibaba and buying JD and Pinduoduo. JD currently trades in China as well as the United States. Looking at the American market, they currently trade at $76 with a market cap of 118 billion. But first, what does Cathie see in China?
Okay, which companies are doing things the government likes?
Right.
And what we're seeing are those that are catering to tier 3, tier 4 cities, logistics, groceries. So you've seen us buy JD.com. JD Logistics is a big part of JD.com. I think they own 70% of it. So that's probably been our biggest purchase, as well as some Pinduoduo for the same reason. But if you were to look at what we were doing in those portfolios, we were really swapping them out of other names that we think are going to be continue to be in harm's way or certainly under government pressure, like the Alibabas, for example.
Which you've been selling, correct?
Yes.
JD.com at a glance. JD.com is a Chinese e-commerce company which was formerly called 360buy, and it changed its name to Jiandong in 2013. Jiandong stands for JD, obviously. You can think about JD as the Amazon from China. It provides nearly 500 million active customers with high quality products, mainly consumer electronics. They have basically two major competitors. These are Tmall, which is owned from Alibaba, and Pinduoduo. In general, the Chinese e-commerce market is set to grow from sales revenue of $2.1 trillion in 2021 to $3 trillion in 2024, representing a compound annual growth rate of 12.4%. JD has diversified businesses in a wide spectrum of sectors, such as JD Retail, JD Logistics, and new businesses. We start on the left with JD Retail. JD Retail mainly consists of online retail as well as an online marketplace and marketing services in China. The company is acquiring products from suppliers and sells them directly to the consumers, so it's a similar business model as Amazon. The second one is JD Logistics. JD Logistics is the leading technology-driven supply chain solutions and logistics provider in China. It offers supply chain solutions as well as high-quality logistics services, so it's all about the delivery of your package. And lastly, the category of the new businesses. And the new businesses mainly include JD Property, JDStockAnalysis, overseas businesses, and technology initiatives. Well, JD Property is the infrastructure and asset management segment which owns, develops, and manages the logistics facilities and other real estate properties. Talking about JDStockAnalysis, well, JD.com focuses on providing these high-quality branded goods for consumers in Tier 1-2 cities. JDStockAnalysis is a social e-commerce marketplace that targets price-sensitive customers in smaller Tier 3-6 cities and rural areas. Revenue for all segments is growing. JD Retail has a growth rate of 23% year over year. JD Logistics has a growth rate of 46%, and looking at the new businesses, they are growing the fastest and they have a growth rate of 60%. So what do Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett think about investing in China?
What are your current thoughts on China and whether the communist leaders will allow businesses with strong leadership to flourish in decades to come?
Well, I think that the Chinese government will allow businesses to flourish. It was one of the most remarkable things that ever happened in the history of the world when a bunch of committed communists just looked at the prosperity of places like Singapore and said, the hell with this, we're not going to stay here in poverty, we're going to copy what works. And they changed communism. They just accepted Adam Smith and added it to their communism. And said, now we have communism with Chinese characteristics, which is China with a free market with a bunch of billionaires and so forth. And they made that shift. They deserve a lot of credit. Warren and I are not quite as good at that as changing our minds in many cases. And that was a remarkable change coming from such a place. And of course, it's worked like gangbusters. It had this enormous growth in the average income of the average Chinese. They've lifted 800 million people out of poverty fast. And There was never anything like it in the history of the world. So my hat is off to the Chinese. And I think they will continue to allow people to make money. They've learned it works. The Chinese, I loved what the guy said in the first place. I don't care whether the cat is black and white as long as it catches mice. That's my kind of talk.
In that list of the 20 most valuable companies, just 3 are Chinese. Now, if you're looking out 30 years, how many do you think will be Chinese? My guess is more, but I don't think they'll top the United States. But who knows? It's amazing what has been accomplished, and
really amazing.
And they found what works. I mean, there's nothing like finding something that works in order to sort of reinforce ideas over time, and we'll see what happens.
Superior services through nationwide logistics network. Well, all these packages from JD.com need to be delivered, and they use warehouses for that. Quick takeaway, rapid expansion and best-in-class fulfillment capabilities. Well, JD has more than 1,200 warehouses. They have a gross floor area of 23 million square kilometers. Delivery personnel, approximately 200,000 people. That's really a lot if you ask me. Asia #1 smart mega warehouses. They have 38 projects in 28 cities right now. And looking at the geographical area in China, it basically covers whole China as well.
Talk about the physical aspect of your business. You have these warehouses. You operate logistics. You are doing drones. How do you think about this? Why do you do all those things is my question.
Okay, we spent 14 years. If you look at our financial report, you will find our general cost for retail business, our general cost on revenue is about 10%. And we managed over 3 million SKUs by the end of last year in our stock. But our inventory days is between 30 to 40 days. So, I mean, our system was very efficient already. But for the future, how we can offer our customers better customer experience and how to continue reducing our cost and improving our efficiency. So the only way to achieve that is that technology. So we spend a lot of time and a lot of money to develop our both like a fully automated warehouse, self-driving trucks, and people-free delivery stations, and drones and last-mile delivery robots. We just want to make sure our customer is always the best. Not only today, but for the future.
So what are the differences between JD.com and Alibaba? Well, JD.com and Alibaba, they both operate in the e-commerce space, although their business models are not exactly the same. First of all, Alibaba is a platform provider, where third-party sellers, they can offer their merchandise, while Alibaba receives a platform fee without handling the packaging, the logistics, etc. themselves. JD.com, on the other hand, sells like Amazon, products themselves, which includes the handling of transportation and packaging. And JD does offer a marketplace for third-party sellers as well, but it is not their primary business, which differentiates them from Alibaba to some degree. JD, due to the handling of these logistics costs, they have heavily invested into tech, which includes using drones and robots to deliver the products to the customers. JD.com and Alibaba do, on top of operating e-commerce operations, also invest in a wide range of projects and other businesses. This includes, for example, Baba's Alibaba Cloud and JD's autonomous vehicle venture. Despite the fact that the two companies do operate somewhat different kinds of business models, they are still competitors from each other. But both serve the Chinese online shopping e-commerce consumer market, and both seek to maximize their platform's shares of dollars that are spent online in the country. Because Alibaba does not have to handle all those logistics, Alibaba has a higher margin compared to JD.com, and JD's margins are more comparable to Amazon. Another big difference is the respective size of the two companies. Alibaba is being valued at 5 times the market capitalization of JD.com and generating net profits that are about 10 times higher than those of JD, which is a significantly larger company. The two don't differ too much in terms of revenue generation. If you look at JD.com, they have a higher revenue per product but at a lower margin, whereas Alibaba's business model that focuses on these platform fees generates a lower revenue per product but at a higher margin. JD.com argues that they have a larger growth potential and smaller competitors versus the market in the United States. On the left we have the top 10 listed retailers in China. JD.com is number 1 with a revenue of approximately $114.3 billion. The second one is Sunning, and the third one is Alibaba New Retail Initiatives. And if you look at the compound annual growth rate from 2016 to 2020, JD is number 1 with 30%. Compare that to the United States with the top 10 listed retailers in the US. Walmart is number 1 with a net retail sales of $433.9 billion with a compound annual growth rate of only 4% from 2016 to 2020. And the second one is Amazon, which has a revenue of $236.3 billion with a compound annual growth rate of 31%. Why did Amazon lost in China?
我们从07年决定自建物流的时候，一路是被无数人耻笑走过来的。但是今天，其实已经毫无疑问的，已经证明，当年我们的战略是正确的。在未来的10年，所有的友商都必将愈来愈像我们今天的京东。
因为这个企业做到10年、20年以后呢，可能会有两种性格的变化，一种呢越做越好奇，越做越好玩。我摊子越来越大，或者摊子越来越多。第二种呢，越做越胆小，就是越做越稳健。
总结的非常到位，我觉得是。
你觉得会怎么样？
从我们过去20年的这个 IT 产业，最近10年又开始进入互联网行业，是吧？从这两行业来看，确实像您所说的，很多企业家就是一做大了一点，稍微大了一点就开始害怕。看满眼看都是风险，
是
怕这个怕那个怕那个，
年纪也大了嘛。
对对，然后企业逐步能开始变化。对，也有的人会可能越做呢越生猛一些。
对，
我觉得我们应该属于后者。对，比如说现在我们做的再好，在整个在中国，我们都还没有成为这个可以说在行业内可以说绝对的第一的位置。还要去东南亚，还要去欧洲，还要去美国。你想世界还有这么大版图的话，足够你做一辈子。
哎，你觉得京东的这个10几年在中国地区的电商啊，或者互联网金融，叫 FinTech 啊，科技金融成功的这些经验，你觉得在全球输出的可能性有吗？或者在哪区域市场？比如说发达国家，还是发展中国家，还是周边的？
我觉得能够唯一拷贝的就是你的真正的以用户体验为中心。我们去国外跟亚马逊竞争，最后也是比拼了谁能够用户体验做得更好一点。
哎，亚马逊
你完全的商业模式复制肯定失败，
也不行。哎，亚马逊为什么中国做不起来？我看它去年数据1%都不到。
对，这个我觉得最核心的。当年我们跟他打的时候，我们感觉他最核心就对中国团队没有信任，不授权。你看他的总经理一直是外国人，而从来没有在中国生活过的外国人，这你怎么打仗呀？是吧？叫士兵在前面打仗了，是吧？连长说走之前我们就1万发子弹了，是吧？那士兵打一枪，子弹还够不够？再打一枪还给不给子弹，是吧？你能打仗吗？
对
，100个士兵都死光了。
对，中国区市场变化快，如果前线没有大规模授权的话，
对，
是问题的。
昨天我们跟一帮朋友聊天，还聊到这个话题。很多公司呢都是老板就是说决定一切，我也是决定一切，但我决定是人，是文化，是公司的战略。这东西从来不改，真正具体业务其实我反正我决定很少，但很多人都以为呢老刘很强势，所以觉得找我底下的高管没有任何意义，凡事要找到我，就找到你就搞定了。我跟他说，
其实也没用是吧？
但其实一点用没有。我说找我真是浪费时间。
In order to keep growing, JD.com is partnering up with different kinds of interesting companies.
I want to talk about your partners. JD has very interesting partners. Tencent owns 18% of your company. Walmart owns 12% of your company, and you just brought on another major investor, Google, which owns 1% of your company. I want to start with Tencent. How important is Tencent's WeChat service, which has a different name in China? Remind me the name in Chinese.
微信.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How important is that to JD's business?
Well, first of all, I think all those partners will have the same core values of business. It's very important. If you cooperate with any partners or company have different core values is also will be a disaster. First, for WeChat, in China we call it Weixin, is very important to us because until today, WeChat can bring almost 1/4 of the new customers to us for every day. Also, we are developing a lot of very interesting, just want to combine the social and the e-commerce together. We call it like 购物圈, I don't know, shopping circles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, a lot of very interesting things.
And it's so interesting here because we don't have that in the United States.
You have Facebook, Instagram a lot.
Yep, but not nearly the level of commerce is happening on those platforms as is happening on WeChat with JD in China. True?
I think if we come here, maybe everything will change.
The shareholder ownership for JD.com is as follows. We make a distinction between the directors and executive officers and the principal shareholders. We will start with the directors and executive officers. The founder and CEO of the company is called Richard Liu. He owns 13.9% of the total ordinary shares and also has the majority of the voting power of this company, which is almost 77%. Zooming in on the principal shareholders, we have Huang River Investment Limited, which is basically a company from Tencent, and Tencent approximately owns 16.9% of the total ordinary shares outstanding, but they have the minority of the voting power, which is 4.6%. And the other thing that I want to mention here is that Walmart has a stake in this company as well. They own 9.3% of the total ordinary shares outstanding with a voting power of 2.5%. JD.com is experiencing strong growth momentum at the moment. You can see that all the bar charts are going up over time. Note that the revenues are represented in Chinese renminbi. For your understanding, one Chinese dollar equals 6.44 Chinese Huang at the day of the recording. We start with the top left with net revenues. It's up 26% year over year, and they have a compound annual growth rate from 2015 to 2020 of 33%. On the top right, they represent net revenues breakdown, and they make a distinction between net product revenues, which is the light pink color, and net service revenues, which is the light gray color. Net product revenues is up 23% year over year, and services is growing faster with 49% year over year growth. And then the bottom left, this is net product revenues breakdown, and again they make a distinction here. The light pink color represents general merchandise revenues, and the light gray color represents electronics and home appliance revenues. And the general merchandise revenues is growing with 29%, so that's growing faster than the electronics because that's up 20% year over year. Then the bottom right, that represents the net service revenue breakdown, and again here they make a distinction as well. They split it up between marketplace and advertising services, which is the light gray color here, and the light pink color represents the logistics and order services, and both are going up as well. JD has resilient core profitability with the benefits of scale. Looking at the non-GAAP net profit for the second quarter of 2021, they had 4.3 billion Chinese renminbi with a net margin of 1.7%, which is down. Looking at JD retail operating income, they had a margin of 2.6% in the second quarter of 2021, and they represent their drivers of the profitability, 2 positives and 1 negative. Well, the positive thing is that increasing economies of scale from one party business over the long term, and the second thing is that there is fast growth of advertising service businesses, which we saw earlier. The negative thing, which is pushing the profit a little bit down, is the investment in logistics and low-tier market initiatives for incremental opportunities. JD.com also has a robust cash flow generation. Looking at the 12 trailing months for the second quarter of 2021, the adjusted operating cash flow was almost 41 billion Chinese renminbi. The free cash flow was 32 billion Chinese renminbi. They also had capital expenditures, which is much lower, approximately 9 billion, and they saw a peak in 2018. While they give 2 positive free cash flow characteristics here. The first one is that negative working capital results in operating cash flow greater than net profit, and by using development properties, they can use that as a long-term cash flow positive business in the future as well. So what are the opportunities for JD.com? Well, JD.com is the number 1 in the Chinese e-commerce by revenue. However, it is second after Alibaba when it comes down to profit. JD.com has a diversified business in a wide spectrum of sectors. Recall that we looked at JD Retail, JD Logistics, and all of the other components that they are investing in. They have an active user base of 532 million people. That's really a lot. If you ask me, it's even bigger than the United States. They have a superior infrastructure and they keep investing a lot in it. I believe that this is a big competitive advantage because JD.com is still growing, they are scaling, and in the end, the average cost per user will go down. From a macro point of view, the Chinese economy will overtake the United States in the future, and this is a way for you to play it geographically. Looking at the e-commerce market in general, the Chinese e-commerce market is set to grow from sales of 2.1 trillion in 2021 to $3 trillion in 2024. This represents a compound annual growth rate of 12.4%, which is positive for JD. Note that JD is less involved in the global e-commerce market compared to Alibaba. The vast majority of JD.com sales are coming from China, and its partners page mainly refers to opportunities for foreign businesses that are wanting to sell in China. And during the conference call, they talked about this as well, and note that they welcomed new brands on the platform such as Bulgari, Victoria's Secret, Belluti, and Ezim. So what are the risks for JD.com? Well, first of all, I see political risk because of the Chinese tech crackdown. China's crackdown on its biggest tech companies is still going on. Tencent recently warned of another regulatory push coming down. And the CCP spoke of getting companies involved in a wealth redistribution plan. Well, JD.com as well as Alibaba and Tencent and all these other tech companies, they could suffer from this because the government is in charge here. Looking at JD specific, there is mainly one risk that I see. Because of growth and expansion, JD.com has thin profit margins, especially compared to Alibaba. I believe those could improve through AI or automation. Looking at China specific, well, China, like the United States, they're also experiencing inflation at the moment. Producer prices, they rose 9% in July, and they could go higher as well. Eventually, manufacturers will pass this on to the consumer, but this takes time to adjust. And in the interim, these higher costs, they could hurt JD in the short term. And lastly, there might be a delisting risk if you invest in JD's ADR, but you can prevent that by investing in the Chinese stock market in Hong Kong, because JD also trades in China as well. I would like to thank everyone for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and that you actually learned something, and see you on the next one.